Already.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching this video. I am here today with Elena Stephenson, and I'm super excited because she is one of my coworkers. We work together at the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center. She is the Performing Arts Coordinator, and so she takes care of all of the performing arts programs for kids and adults, and it's super cool, and there's a lot of fun things going on. So we're just going to talk to you guys about what she does there. So Elena, first off, why don't you start by introducing yourself, sort of, and telling us about your personal and creative background, how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah. I am a big advocate for arts education. And my love for performing arts and theater started at a really young age. Like, I have early memories. So I have one sister, and she also works in the humanities. She's the writing studio specialist at Longview Community College. And I have early memories of her. So she would write these plays or these scenes, and I would act them, and we would do that for the neighbors. And it's funny because, like, I have a 5-year-old that I don't even have to push it. Like, she is a natural performer, and I see a lot of, like, the passion I had for performing in the arts in her, which is wild to kind of see that develop before my eyes. But I've always loved being a storyteller. I've always loved performing. And, you know, I went on to middle school to do school plays and whatnot, went on to high school, and was like president of the drama club, and I was in all the plays. You know, I did a lot of other extracurricular things, like I played soccer, I sang for a band, but it was always theater for me. Like, theater was always just an amazing outlet for me to express myself and to grow in confidence, and I loved it. So I went on to get a BFA from a school in Abilene, Texas called ACU. So I got a BFA in acting and directing. My undergrad program was pretty rigorous too, in that they only accept, and I think they still do this, they only accept 12 students a year, and that's performance and design track.
Wow.
So it was a very rigorous and competitive program, but I'm really grateful for that training. I have colleagues, like one of my colleagues is Pumbaa in The Lion King on Broadway. I have several colleagues that have performed on Broadway or did national tours. So I'm grateful for that professional training. In my last semester at ACU, I always had an interest in film too. I had the opportunity to study in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Film Studies Center, and learn about filmmaking and acting for the camera. And so that was really neat, in that the university I went to for undergrad did not really have a lot of film, like a strong film department. And it was great to be in LA. Like, I got to work for a talent agency in Santa Monica. I got to, while in LA, I did some modeling and acting workshops for kids, and that's kind of what sparked my interest in education. And I worked in casting. So I graduated with my BFA in 2009. And I lived in LA for a couple years, and I worked in casting out there. I worked for America's Next Top Model in their casting department for 2 seasons. I did some acting. I directed some short films. And then I just kind of had, like, I was starting to think about wanting to go to graduate school. And I moved back to Kansas, close to my family. And I started looking into graduate programs. And I was looking into MFA programs for directing. And then also, I found NYU Steinhardt for theater education, and I was like, whoa, this program looks really interesting, and kind of sparked. I started kind of working as a teaching artist, teaching these workshops, and I was like, I kind of want to cultivate this skill set more, and I want to learn more about this program, and I just fell in love with it, and I got in, and so I moved to New York City. And did my master's there, and it was a great experience because I got to work as a teaching artist. I interned for an arts and literacy teacher in the Bronx. I worked all over the city, and it really shaped my personal teaching philosophy, and my role as artist, as educator. And I can speak volumes, you know, about this program at NYU. It really prepared me. The faculty is incredibly supportive. I felt like I was among my people. I was like, oh, teaching artist. Well, I've been doing this for a long time. And, I was able to kind of bring it back to my own high school experience and how instrumental my high school theater teacher, Ken Church, and Miss Scoville, how instrumental they were in developing me as a young performer, and to kind of carry on like the full circle of how I saw that value in arts education. So I got my master's there, and I found out I was pregnant with my daughter right before my thesis went up. So who's now almost 5, or is 5. My daughter's 5. Time is flying. And so I was like, I think I want to move back to Kansas City, raise her close to my family. So moved back, worked for the Coterie Theater, worked for an organization called Shining Stars that brings theater into preschools. Kind of worked all over the city again as a teaching artist, part-time, and also staying home with my kiddo. And then I saw the position open up for theater and performing arts coordinator through Johnson County Parks and Recreation. And I was like, this job looks interesting. Like, I'll apply for this, and see. And I had a phone interview, which is funny. Like, the guy that interviewed me, I actually went to high school with. Like, we were drama club nerds together. His name is Scott Gardner. And we just had this, like, we had to, we proceeded with the interview, but it was like, oh my gosh, I want to catch up with you. And he was Tom Sawyer, and I was Becky Thatcher in a school play. So we had this, like, rich, lovely theater history. And it was one of those things, like, after I did the phone interview, like, and I learned more about the position, I was like, oh my God, I really, really want this job, like, so bad. And I remember I was going to go to New York. I'm, like, telling you all the stories.
I love it.
And I was going to go, after the phone interview, the next day I went on a plane to New York because I presented at NYU's forum on theater for social change with Heidi Van of the Fish Tank. I remember I was in New York City when I got the call that I had an in-person interview for this position, and it was a really rich and beautiful moment. And so yeah, I've been in my position here at the Arts and Heritage Center. It's going to be almost 3 years, which is crazy. I feel like time is flying.
In May, right?
Yeah, in May it'll be 3 years.
Me too.
So that means, like, we do this program called Theater Academies, and we're about to be in our 4th season for that. It's been really great to see certain programs really develop and try new things, and also just, like, in the last year, how our division has grown amidst all our crazy challenges of how to respond and pivot in COVID. But yeah, I kind of told you a lot of things. That's a little bit about me, and I guess that leads us up to, like, what I do, my position.
So yeah, what does your role entail? What do you do here?
Tell us
about that.
Because not every day is the same. It's pretty wild, depending on the time of year and what we're doing. But so I oversee all performing art programming. So it's music, theater, and dance programs. And we have programs all the way for little itty bitties, like 2-year-olds, younger, and then we have programs for adults. So I oversee those, and I curate the content, and I'm always researching, like, arts education trends and kind of doing market research on what other arts organizations are doing. And then I also hire, manage, and mentor our roster of teaching artists. And then there's the admin side of things. I make sure our programs are up to date in our registration software, make sure that I assist with marketing, and make sure that we have our Facebook events up to date. So yeah, I wear a lot of different hats. And I think as these programs grow, like, hopefully we can delegate some of those hats, and hey y'all, if you want to intern this summer with us, let me know. Like, we'll take help. But I think that's one of the things I really love about my job too, is it's not the same. Yes, it's like a 9-to-5 job, but it looks a little different depending on the day, and it keeps it fresh. And especially when we have, like, camps going on or consistent programming, it's so fun to, like, have that energy in the building too.
Can you talk about those camps a little bit in the summer for kids, because that is just, like, the busiest time for this building?
Absolutely. So I was just in, like, camp catalog today and camp mindset, which is crazy because it's January, but we plan everything 6 months ahead. Even when we're in a pandemic, it's really funny to plan 6 months ahead, and then you're like, we're gonna have to do this instead. And but we're all creative, so we're good at that, right? We're good. But yeah, so camps, we have all kinds of performing art camps. Like I said, we have these theater academies that are 2-week camps that culminate in us sharing a performance for family and friends. And we, for a while, we just did like kids and junior camps, so ages like 8 to 18. And this is the first year that we have a 1-week camp for littler kids, like kind of like an intro to academy. And they're doing a Magic Treehouse show called Paris Past Noon, and so it's for 6 to 8-year-olds. Yeah, I'm excited. So registration opens up Monday for all of JCPRD summer camps, and the theater academies are all like nautical themed this year. So we're doing the Pirates Past Noon, and then we're doing Moana Junior, which I'm totally excited about.
Nice.
Huge Moana fan. Cry every time I watch that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And then Little Mermaid Junior. And the idea with these academies, too, is like as they move up in age, the content is slightly more challenging. The songs are going to be a little bit more nuanced, and the choreography is going to be a little more complicated, so that we are kind of meeting these kids where they are. But also, it's always fascinating, when I meet with a teaching artist and we do staff training at the beginning of the season. We talk a lot about like kids of all different backgrounds come to these programs and these camps. And it's not really about who's the best whatever, like how long you've been doing theater. Like our goal is creating in a fun and safe environment, but also we want to leave the kids better than we found them, but also we want them to grow as performers at the end of the day and challenge them in a way, whether that's someone that's been doing theater since they were 2, or it's their second theater academy, or first, like they're interested in it and they want to learn. Is our goal is to grow them as performers so they can take those skills back to their schools or their community centers or wherever else they might do theater and kind of be leaders. So that's kind of our mission with that. But yeah, and then we also have pre-K summer camps that are half day. We have a dance camp this summer. We are doing, so Sav, who did Creative Conversations yesterday, he's going to do a screenplay to screen of our first film camp, which is really exciting. So learning all about filmmaking and how to create a shot list and storyboard and then maybe make a short film at the end. So branching out in that as well is really exciting. So yeah, that's just a little bit about summer camps, which is our fast and furious season.
Yeah. So in the pandemic, maybe not summer camps, but are any of your other classes virtual or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I, especially, when we kind of came back from everything being shut down in May and kind of assessed what the community needs, we started having conversations about virtual programming. So this past fall, we launched 2 virtual programs for performing arts. We did like a musical theater class called Let's Sing, and it was for 8 to 12-year-olds, and they would work on 16 bars each week and bring it back for the teaching artist to get coached and reviewed and peer feedback and perform for each other. The highlight of that too, like virtual has been fascinating to me because like I think you and I were in a meeting a few months ago where a colleague was like, really, like when you're not restricted by having to be in the same room together, like the possibilities can be pretty like endless.
Yeah.
And in that specific class, we were able, Andrew Yearwood is a cast member on Hamilton, and he was able to zoom in and listen to these kids. And this one particular kid, Jared, is a huge Hamilton fan, and he sang part of a song for this actor Andrew, and they sang together, and it was just this rich, beautiful moment that like there's no way we could bring him, fly him in and bring him in, but like he can drop in for 10 minutes for this virtual program,
Yeah.
And then we also had like a performance masterclass that was kind of similar in that again, the possibilities are kind of endless when you aren't restricted to being in the same room together. And we got to bring in guest teaching artists each week from New York and LA to give like industry tips on creating a successful self-tape, how to like make a good resume, how to persevere in the crazy career that is an acting career. And so that was really lovely. So we had 2 of those programs, and we're offering those again this winter spring. So people can register for that. The age ranges, Let's Sing is 8 to 12, and then the performance master class is 10 to 16. And then we have a film studies class for 16 and up for adults, which Sav is also teaching. So that's a new virtual program. We have a physical theater class that's kind of geared towards getting more in touch with your body and how to tell stories, nonverbal stories with your body. And actually, we have a teacher and artist that's working on her master's from my program at NYU, Saya. She's teaching that. I think that's it for our virtual programs. I feel like I'm leaving one out, but there's a lot. There's 18 programs that we're performing arts programs that we're doing this winter and spring. So
Wow,
it's a lot.
that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
but all really fun options.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, very cool. Um, so I guess we could talk about really quick, if people don't already know, how can they register for these classes?
that's really a great question, because we, in the midst of the pandemic and pivoting and, reevaluating how we do programming, we also were like, yeah, we're going to launch new registration software in October.
Yeah.
So we used to have a software system called Perfect Mind, but now it's called ActiveNet, and they can go to the site ActiveNet or also www.jcprd.org, and then click on activities or click on facilities in the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center. That will take you to our homepage. And if you go into classes, it will all be there with registration links. So that's one way. We also make it a point to put our registration links in our Facebook events. So like us on Facebook, Johnson County Parks and, Johnson County Parks and Recreation, but also the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center. We're always posting updates of what's going on in our building, and because we haven't even talked about the amazingness that is the Arts and Heritage Center and all that exists under one roof, and that we have the art studios, the Black Box Theater, dance studio, rehearsal studios, and then a museum, and the Arts Council of Johnson County offices out of that building. So emerging artists, like there's just a lot of amazing synergy, creative synergy happening in our building. So definitely like us on Facebook to learn more about all the cool things that are happening. That's one way. And then also you can call me if you're like, I want to register for this and I don't know how to do it. My office number is 913-826-3059. Just took me a couple years to memorize it,
Fair.
Or email me too. I get a lot of emails in like, hey, what kind of theater classes do you have? Or my daughter really wants to learn dance. Tell me about pre-ballet. And so yeah.
Cool. So that was a perfect segue into my next question, which is, what is the Black Box Theater and what do you do? What is it for?
Yeah. So the Black Box Theater is, first of all, a gorgeous space in our building. And it's a flexible space. We've done all kinds of theater shows in that space where we've done it. Like my first summer there, we did James and the Giant Peach in the round. Theater in the Park has done a runway stage. We've done traditional proscenium. It's also the home. So Theater in the Park, is known for being in Shawnee Mission Park and the gorgeous amphitheater that, there's been shows 3,000 plus people come and watch, which is amazing. But the Black Box is kind of the indoor home for Theater in the Park. So they do shows every fall and spring, and they actually are about to do a really cool new musical kind of a cabaret review called Songs for the New Now. And so that's coming up, I want to say in April.
I think so.
But go to the Theater in the Park's website to learn more. And I think we have about 10 more days. So if you are a composer, a songwriter, a musician, submit a song for this review and you can get produced, which is super exciting. And I think the deadline's January 31st. So you have 10 days. So that's going to happen in that space. Traditionally, too, we used to do our Theater in the Park, our academy showcases in that space. We're kind of moving more towards process and less product with our academies, and I can talk a little bit about that and why as well. But it's more to hone in on the educational experience and less on it being about a product, which is a huge tenet of my own personal teaching philosophy. But those happen there. And what's cool about the Black Box is obviously it's like internally we use it in the division and in JCPRD, but people can rent it. So I've actually seen, you know, small theater companies do shows in that space, and bigger theater companies as well. And it's been really exciting to have outside vendors come in and make that space their home and produce some really lovely pieces of theater too. So we use it internally, but like as we transition hopefully out of this pandemic in the next year, we're hopeful to bring more theater companies in to activate that space again. So
Yeah. Not only is there the theater, there's, you know, like 2 rehearsal spaces, right? That they get to use with like full blown mirrors and all that. And do they get to use the dance studio too?
yeah. So the dance studio is probably my favorite space in the building. And for those that don't know, the Arts and Heritage Center used to be King Louis. So it's really fun to have people walk in the building that haven't been in the building before, because they're like, I remember when this was King Louis, which I think is a compliment because we've really preserved a lot of the architecture. You'll see we have the same wood paneling roof that King Louis used to have, and in the dance studio, the rock wall has been preserved. It's just a gorgeous space. There's a springboard floor. The lighting's really beautiful. These large windows. Obviously, all of our dance classes happen in that space, and we've kind of moved towards our theater academies doing their showcases in that space because it really lends itself to that. And it's probably, yeah, it's my favorite space in the building. It's just really lovely.
So nice.
So yeah, come check it out, you guys.
Yeah. So when you do classes, do you ever, what's the word, like what am I trying to say? Cross discipline? Do you work with like fine arts and what kind of things do you do for that, if anything?
Yeah, so sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
For a second. Yeah, so Devin is the fine arts coordinator, and she oversees all fine art programming. And every once in a while, we'll do a collaboration. And we do have certain like we have Hogwarts Academy that has a lot of steam and kind of I feel like I'm freezing.
A little bit, but I can still hear you.
Okay. Let me see. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. But it has a lot of STEAM components in that camp and some kind of creative drama in that as well. But there's always room to do. I know we started looking into building wine field trips as well. We're working on a redlining field trip for the spring. I'm partnering with Shawnee Mission North in that it's going to be a virtual field trip, but it's in that high schoolers will get to go on a museum tour and do a special exhibit about redlining specifically in Kansas City. They'll get to do some scene study work with the Raisin in the Sun, so that's where the performing arts come in, and then they'll get to make a fine arts project. So we try to look for ways where there is synergy there, especially since our building is so unique in that we have all those things going on under one roof. And I honestly can't think of any other place in the metro area that has like a museum, an arts component, a theater component, facility rental component. Like we truly are so unique in that way. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Trying to think of other things to ask. Is there anything that I left out that you want to talk about more about your job or the theater or the building?
You covered a lot of bases. I think that so we just had a division retreat was it already a couple weeks ago? Last week.
I think, yeah.
And it was really good because it's always good to reflect on the previous year and your goals moving forward. And my boss actually said this, and I thought it really kind of sums up what we do in our building really well. Like going back to this idea of leaving people better than we found them and the value in arts education or experiencing art. And we've had to be creative in the last year in how we experience art, right? But this idea that we want to leave people better, and we go through life, we can live in neutral, and we can have our basic needs met, but the arts is really the vehicle that makes people better, whether it's experiencing art, creating art, um, teaching art. Like, I think that's truly the value in what we do, and like the kind of mission of what we do. And I just really encourage people, if they haven't visited our building, the Johnson County Arts and Heritage Center, please do. And we only this is the week that the COVID exhibit closes, right? The arts exhibit.
Yeah, it closes tomorrow, actually.
So if you are free, come see us tomorrow, because right now in our commons we have beautiful artwork on the wall from local artists that have responded to COVID-19, and all kinds of media, all kinds of art, photography, mixed media, painting, sculpture. It's a really gorgeous exhibit, and it's free to the public. You can just come into our commons and spend some time with that, and then maybe come grab a newsletter, learn about what we're doing in our building. There's something for everybody, truly, in our building. I truly believe that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I have another question that's kind of, I don't know if you have an answer, but I kind of want to know your thoughts about it. What do you think after the pandemic, after everything goes back to normal, what do you think the future for theater looks like? Do you think
Oh, that's
we'll go
such a
back
good
to
question.
normal, or?
Because we were just in a meeting about this morning, Allison. But I kind of I'm not a fan of the phrase "back to normal," and I have to kind of catch myself from saying that, because I think we've all been affected by this in a very deep and meaningful way. Like, I'm excited that Broadway might open in the fall, mostly for my friends to get back into work.
Yeah.
But yeah, this new virtual component, I don't think theater is going to be the same. And we talked about this in the meeting, like, and in that way too, with more streaming of things, like, I think it can be a little more accessible for people, or at least be a gateway for people to understand. Maybe someone that wouldn't necessarily go see live theater, if they saw a live theater streaming performance, maybe they're like, okay, maybe I'll go check out this thing that this community theater is doing. Or because
Yeah.
of course, growing up in the theater, I'm a little biased, and I truly believe there's nothing like that live theater experience where it can't be repeated. It's never the same. It's Stanislavski talks about it being kind of like communion, like it's just this sacred thing. But there's a part of us that have to kind of let that go a little bit, because everything has shifted so much, and we kind of have to follow the times. So, like, Theater in the Park just did our Innovative Theater Challenge, where local playwrights got to submit one-act plays, and then Theater in the Park produced it, and then filmed it and streamed it. And so that was the first time that's ever been done in our black box. So it's thinking creatively, it's thinking innovatively, which, as creatives, as artists, we're all should be good at that and thrive in that in a way. But I don't think there's any going back. I think we're going forward, we're being more innovative, we're figuring out, again, like, the possibility of not being restricted to being in the same room, like what we can do when we're not in the same room together, and the kind of reach we can have. But yeah, I don't think I've let go of whatever going back to normal is, because I don't think we've
Right.
all been so profoundly affected by this that it's more going forward, and
Yeah.
how is it going to shape our art making. So
Cool. Good answer.
yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me. It's
Thank
funny to say,
you.
because like we see each other every day.
I know.
But yeah, and yeah, it's been a pleasure, Allison. I don't have anything else. Come
Thank you
check out the
so
Arts and
much.
Heritage Center.
Yeah. So yeah, this will be up later today, so people can watch it. And like Elena said, give her a call or email, or reach out to the Arts and Heritage Center if you want to register for some classes or register your kids, and follow them on Facebook. All right.